Oh, it
Call
does.
the meeting to order.
It is 3:30.
Let's start right away with Michael. You're up.
Hey, good
All right.
afternoon, everyone.
Good.
First item on our agenda is the proposed Lincoln High School JV2 soccer coach position for next year. And as you'll see with the memo, we put all the participation numbers in from 22, 23, 24, 25, 25, 26. And when Stan Dietrich, the director of athletics, brought this to my attention, of course, one of my questions right away was, how stable is the recommendation of enough players for one more team? Or I just didn't want to get into a situation where we got into the season, halfway through the season, we didn't even have enough players for the team because of people coming and going or whatever like that, or even next year. And both the head coach right here,
Yep.
Matt Cato, head boys soccer coach, and Stan said, no, these numbers are solid. So we have about 20, 28, 26 more players, which, really is one full squad. And as you can see here, we have the costs associated with the JV2 program. It's about $6,200. They do already have, Stan's already put together a tentative 16-game schedule, pending board approval.
Yeah, 16 games. That's a lot of games, isn't it? How many games does the basketball team play?
That I don't know. I can tell you,
20-ish.
20? Okay.
yeah, we are allowed at the varsity and any JV level that is not exclusively freshmen up to 24, and we have been doing 21 games at that level the last couple of seasons. WIAA requires that any programs for soccer that are wholly freshmen, which we'd assume our JV2 team is going to be, is maxed out at 16 games. So that's a WIA maximum schedule.
Okay.
It's incredibly easy for us to fill.
So these kids, the young kids get to play now if they have a JV team.
Yeah.
So that's.
This is not even do we even really need to discuss this? Is a good thing. I mean, we got so many players. It's gonna give kids a chance to play as well too, on top of this.
They get to go to
I
Michigan.
motion to approve it.
Yeah, sure.
Motion, we got a second. My only question for Matt is our current middle school participation, any idea on those numbers, kids that are going on?
Yeah, we have pretty good numbers on that, and then I was able to extrapolate out, and again, we get really good retention from the middle school up to the high school. And we have since coming out of COVID. And we're looking at by the 28-29 school year, having upwards of 80 to 85 kids. So we're really probably gonna get to a point where we're gonna have
Look at
to
a third team.
We're gonna have to be competitive. We're
It's
gonna
an
be
industry.
at a third team or start really getting competitive and actually cutting kids.
Oh, really, huh? Holy wow.
It's an exciting place to be.
Yeah, and just let me say this, we want to avoid cutting kids because the research and the studies show that when kids are involved in sports, music, any clubs, any type of activity, they do much better in school, academically, behaviorally, the whole 9 yards. So there's a lot of
I played
benefits.
sports with kids that wouldn't have got through high school if they hadn't been playing sports, yeah.
So we have a motion, a second.
Yeah, we have
Anything
it.
else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And that passes.
Great. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Thanks for being here,
Thank
Matt.
you for coming.
All right, and I'd like to introduce, I'm gonna use my cheat sheet for this, but Bonnie Roseniak, right? There we go. Bonnie's the coordinator of our youth apprentice program at the high school. And just bring this up here quickly. As you can see from the memo, we put in this current year cost, we put in this current year positions. And next year, there's a variety of positions. And you can see the different type of positions. I think, I like the variety. I think we're gonna do good things for kids here. And the net gain is really 3 positions. We're going from, I can't remember what it was, 22 positions to 25. So
Are we talking about FTEs?
no, we're talking about youth apprenticeship.
I know, but I mean, at 22, is that 22 full-time people? It can't be at that price. What do we got? They
It's
work quarter
individual-
time or
Yeah,
something?
it's individual students, so each of those students are working 12 to 14.
Oh,
hours.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, they gotta get to 450 hours total.
yeah, okay, okay.
More than I ever worked. Thank you.
So we have 22 positions currently. We're proposing 25 for next year.
Yep, that's
Which
good.
is like 3 additional positions. The variety, I think, is, IT, EL assistant, English language assistant, school nursing, new one, PTOT,
Mhm.
physical therapy, occupational therapy, new one, speech language pathology, and maintenance. And the thing is about these positions is they're very high demand, low supply type of positions right now and going into in the future. And if these students get into these programs and really enjoy this stuff and end up going into a career, look what we've done for somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Or they get into the business.
for us.
This isn't for me. Same song, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
So we've done them a good favor, so. This is just a really positive thing for our students and for our community. And the thing is too, is that a lot of times, you go away to school, you come back to the area where you grew up, and we're kind of feeding our own pipeline maybe a little bit with SLPs and PTs and OTs, which are very hard to find.
Yeah.
Very hard to find. So you never know. We're bringing some kids back here that stay here and become employees for us.
This is this is one of our best programs, really.
Yeah, compliments to Bonnie. And the total cost, the total increase of cost, the net cost is about $29,000.
I was,
That's nothing.
yes,
Move to
Chris.
approve.
I got a motion to approve. Second from Matt. When I was touring LTC this morning, we were talking about this program. And Mike, what you said about even the kids who might not end up going into that career, they try it and they don't like it. That might be more valuable than if it works, because it helps them realize what they can and can't do. But the other thing this does is, way back when you could drop out of school at 16, kids were able to leave and go get a job and start working, and you can't do that anymore. And to be honest, school is not the place where some kids want to be full-time. So if programs like this help them get some education and then go out and get an education in a real-world skill, that's...
We have plenty of apprentices. Unfortunately, it's been mostly Mishcot lately, but at Parker, we have plenty of apprentices that come through. I'd love to see more of our people too. Matter of fact, I think I should probably send it to you. They have a program. There flyers in there, and I should read it more, but it says Mishcot, so I'm just like, whatever. But there's some sort of a QR code on there that they're looking, for donations and everything like that for the Youth Apprentice Program. I wonder how it's doing for them, but I should probably email that to you just so you can see what they're doing. Maybe that's something that's, I don't know, but either way.
I got a copy of that.
Oh, you do have a copy of that? Okay, so you
I mean, I
understand.
see it as a real progressive thing that,
But there's,
there's been a
invaluable.
serious anxiety in this country for a long time about, like, if you don't go to college, what are you good for? And I know that these kinds of programs were operating when I was in high school.
Yep.
In Canada. I mean, Canadian, the whole Canadian thing is like, okay, we need to run an economy up here. We need machinists and et cetera, et cetera. And that was happening right in high school. And I always thought, Americans, wow, what's wrong with producing, good machinists and things,
Can you imagine the cost if we tried to run some programs?
Yeah.
I mean, our autos
Oh,
classes are
yeah, you
wonderful,
can't do
but
that.
we're using, they're wonderful if you're from the 1980s. We couldn't afford to keep up with the technology. I remember when Manitowoc Company came in and looked at our welders, and they said, this is wonderful, except this is what we did
Middle Ages,
in
right?
1985, we can't make the investment that industry can make to stay, that they have to make to stay competitive. So it's a great way for our kids to get that experience.
yeah, like I said, we had some people that even came from Lincoln though, that are, they went through the apprenticeship program. Now they got permanent jobs with us and they're machinists or are gonna be going to the electrician apprenticeship program.
yeah.
And even as of right now, they're making 80 plus a year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're just graduated high school.
Yeah.
It's good for them. They stay there, they're gonna have millions in their 401k by the time it's done.
Right.
That's what I tell them. I said, just remember that by the time you're my age, you're gonna be looking at 7 numbers in that baby.
It's the people coming out of college with degrees in art
Spend
history.
it all now.
They're working, doing hamburgers.
Right.
Anything else on that?
No, this
Otherwise,
is good. This is
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And we've got the staffing report, Michael.
Staffing report. Start with the elementary school, move into the high school, middle school, da, 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 da. So what we're doing a little bit more in-depth examination this year is staffing to enrollment. The last couple of years that I've been here, we have staff to enrollment. It's just been a little bit more lax relative to not really examining it and moving to say, okay, we're going to reduce here, we're going to reduce here. So we're staffing to enrollment. And at the elementary school, we have reduced 7 positions, okay? And I can look at it quickly, but we'll go through it right here. But here's a couple of things I want you to know about that. When you reduce a position, that teacher becomes displaced. When you have a retirement or resignation, that teacher can then move into that position prior to any internal transfers from a different building or from any hires outside of the district. You're displacing one of your own people. So with retirements and resignations, they become displaced and we put them in another position. When we look at our elementaries and reducing 7 FTEs, the good news is every one of those people will be in a position next year. Of the 7, 4 of them are going to be in their own, in the building they're in. 3 have been displaced out of their building. Could be permanently, I mean, for next year, what I mean by permanent, could be temporarily when something else pops for a resignation. It's a little early for resignations. And last year from April to September, we had 20. We've got about 2 right now. So we might get some more and they may end up being able to go back to the building that they were in. A lot of times when somebody gets the first job or gets a job and they go into a certain building, they become the relationships with the staff members, administration, the parents, they become very acclimated and they enjoy the building. So they get a chance, a lot of times they want to go back to the building. So getting a little bit more specific here for Franklin, and I'll just walk through these a little bit. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of what was running stuff, but Franklin, we're going to reduce 1 FTE. Remember, Franklin is a AGR school,
Yeah.
which is the achievement gap reduction, But we're going to go down 1 section in 5K. And after going down 1 section in 5K, we'll still have class size average of 15. Okay, so I want to point out to you, even though we're making a reduction, we still have a class size of 15. Then we're going down a section of 5th grade and up a section of 4th grade. Of course, that's a wash, that type of thing. And we do have 1 3rd grade retirement over there. So that's helpful too. Anytime we have retirements and resignations, remember that's helpful anytime we're displacing people. Because our intent is to keep everybody employed. Jackson, we're down 2 FTEs due to enrollment. And a grade 2, and that grade 2 is projected to be at about 21.5 after we've reduced. And our 3rd grade is projected to be at 25.5 after the reduction. And we have a 2nd grade retirement at Jackson. Jefferson, we're also down 2 FTEs, and they're an AGR school. We're down 1 sec, and notice we're another school with a 5K, meaning declining enrollments have been coming, and when we have 3 schools, I think, with 5K reductions, so that's trending in a direction that we're declining. I don't want to say fast and hot and heavy, but we're declining, and 5K is showing that. But anyway, we're down 1 5K section. They'll still be at 15. We're down a section of 2nd grade. They'll still be at 15.5. We have a fourth grade retirement, a fourth grade resignation there. Madison, we're down to 2 FTEs. Once again, another one, 5K. Their projected class size is gonna be 21. We're down at grade 2, projected class size 25. And we're down at 5th grade, but up at 4th grade. That's just, but the thing about Madison is, we have no retirements, no resignations right now. So we do have 2 people displaced out of Madison to different buildings, but they have employment. If somebody resigns in that building, they may be able to get back in it. If they had to go from 5K to 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade or something, and then a 5K opens up somewhere else, they'll get the first choice chance to go 5K. Or if something opens up in their building, they'll get a first chance if anything happens to go back to their building, stuff like that, so. Riverview, FTE neutral, Monroe, FTE neutral. Actually, see, Monroe's had 4 retirements out of there. The reading teacher, grade 3, and 2 grade 5s out of there. Riverview is neutral, but they're down a section in grade 3 and up a section in grade 4. That's just student class sizes moving across. Riverview Early Learning with the 4K program. The 4K program at the YMCA basically is being dissolved, and we're going to absorb that one section, and we're going to absorb it without adding staff. So you can see what the numbers are. The AM section, we're expecting to be under 20.
Explain how you do that, Mike. How do you absorb it without new staff?
So we have, trying to see if I put it in here. We currently have 6 sections. So
Yeah.
let's say we,
Currently 6 sections.
so we're bringing in, let's just say 15 students in the morning, 15 students in the afternoon. Those 6 sections absorb those 15 at about 2.5 per teacher.
Mhm.
And remember, we have some declining enrollments hitting us in those early grades. So does that make sense, Carrie?
Mhm.
What I described? No? And at the end of the day, we wouldn't absorb them like that if our numbers were well over 20 or something like that for 4K. You know, we want those numbers to be.
Yeah, right,
So-
exactly, yeah.
And every one of those 4K teachers, by the way, as you can tell, I have a full-time instructional aide with them.
Yeah. Okay.
And then when you look at summary of each grade of the elementary core teachers, in kindergarten, this is district-wide now, right? Kindergarten, district-wide, 243 students, 15 sections. Class size average, 16.2. And that includes Franklin and Jefferson as AGR. And you can, I won't just read the numbers, you can see the numbers. But what's kind of interesting is for the most part, the class size average goes up as you go into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade a little bit, you know, not a lot. And if we look at the number of students, grade 1 is a little bit bigger class, grade 4, grade 2 in kindergarten are smaller class, you know, you can just see the class sizes are a little bit. And to project that out, let's just project out 243 students. And let's say that 250 students ends up being the trend for the next 4 or 5 years. Up to the middle school, we're gonna be way down. We get up to the high school, we're going down substantially again. Now, this is over a period of time, obviously, right? But, you know. And then I want to point out the elementary specials. Right now, every school has their own PE, their own general music, and their own art teacher. Because we're going down 7 sections, and because we went down a couple of sections last year, we're proposing that instead of having 6 teachers, 1 per every building, we're gonna have 5 teachers. And a couple of them are gonna travel. You know, the program doesn't change, but, you know, our staffing assignments change a little bit. So I wanted to point that out. Once again, of all these reductions, or just people being displaced, nobody's losing their job. Nobody's being laid off from this group here. All right, before I go into the high school, any questions on the elementary? Anything?
You think, you know, among the specialists, do you think that this new arrangement might be an inducement for some of them to move?
To leave our district?
Yeah. I mean, how important is it to some of them that they have a full-time job in one place?
I'd answer it like this.
I mean,
Is enough of a motivating factor for somebody to leave Manitowoc and add a commute to Sheboygan or Green Bay or something?
Mhm.
I don't think so.
okay.
But I'm also hearing from all of them, I mean, nobody has said, well, Mike, if so-and-so has to travel, they're gonna resign. I mean, nobody's thrown that at me at all. I
Yeah.
mean, if people could have one building versus travel, give me the one building. I know they would say that.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, who wants to travel, December, January, February, right? I mean, you gotta get in your car, go to the building, blah, 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 but
I used to get that when I was chair of the history department for the colleges, and I'd say, well, you're gonna have to teach one course at Fond du Lac, or, you know, et cetera, or, you know, in West Bend or something like that, and they'd say, oh, God, come on, you know, that's like, I don't wanna do that. And I'd say, well, okay, you can have a 2/3 time job. And I said, you know, that's why they call it work, you know? But see, the thing is that none of the people with PhDs in history could, you know, were very mobile in English and philosophy and sociology and stuff like that. They couldn't move, so they had to take it. But these people are much more mobile, I think. Yeah.
So it's very commonplace for districts, especially our size, with our number of buildings, to have traveling teachers.
Yeah, I would think.
You know, you almost can't, I mean, if you're not doing your due diligence to create efficiencies that way, you're gonna get real behind, you know, in some of your staffing numbers, and of course, all that's at a cost. So, you know, we have reduced greatly, I would say, being around here for about 25 years, the number of people that are traveling are greatly reduced comparatively to what it used to be. Goodness, I mean, I was at the high school social studies, we always had a traveler to Washington or Wilson, always. And then that sort of ended, but I mean, you know, we're at a position, especially with our, the way our grade alignment works and the fact that our buildings have such varying degrees of populations of kids, you know, there's gonna be instances where we need to make some of our specialists especially travel.
let me add, piggyback on relative to efficiency. Right now, there are, and I can't give you a number, but there are a number of our specials at elementary that truly aren't 1.0s. And, you know, they're maybe 0.8, 0.85, 0.9.
Yeah,
blah,
okay.
blah, blah. You know, then when you get to, you know, some of our buildings that are extremely 9 sections, 12 sections, when a full-time job is 18. You see what I'm saying? So, like Lee said, for fiscal efficiency, we gotta be looking at this kind of stuff and going in this direction. And it's not uncommon. Everywhere I've been, there's been traveling teachers.
Do we, historically, when did we switch that? I mean,
What?
having people not travel.
It was with the
Oh,
schedule
yeah,
change.
yeah.
When they, I don't know how many years ago this was, but we made a schedule change with the intent of creating a model in which there was some sustainability in having people in the building. But again, remember, in the last, just even few years, we've lost 400 kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, over time, you know, a model you created to fit a certain thing doesn't quite fit it. And that's where we're at with this.
I mean, to get most of the people in your building, all staying there and not traveling, is just totally dependent upon enrollment. Correct. And, you know, early on in Manitowoc, it was like, we'd have half a position here and half a position there, but, you know, as we built the enrollment up, you know, we got a good.
And here's the other thing I just want to point out. With the low supply of teachers today, you know, when I first started in this profession 30 years ago or more, 40 years ago, I want to say 30 feel good, but 40 years ago, you could have a 0.8 or a 0.9 or a 0.75.
Yeah.
Because everybody's, get me in the door.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
Today, you reduce somebody to 0.8, and you're like, No, I'm going south or north or east or west, I want a full-time gig, you know?
And you still get health insurance, you know?
So,
And
so with just elementary, we're looking at $1 million plus savings.
oh, yeah, more than that.
Not these positions, which the other side of that though is losing students.
It's like,
And I go back to, you know, our 4K numbers down because there's places starting 3K. And if I put
that's
my
right.
student in a 3K program in Reedsville or one of the private schools, do I switch over to the public school for 4K? As a parent, I don't know if I would have done that. So is that something, I know it would cost money or there'd be startup costs to it, but is that something that as a district, maybe we need to look at to look at that declining enrollment number? There's a limited number of kids in this area and we've got to be as competitive as we can be with the other schools here.
yeah, yeah, it's time to try to retain students instead of having them go to Bellips
Right.
or, you know, to Mishicot or something like
But
that.
even getting them earlier, like the other
Yeah,
programs in our area are doing, so things I think we have to look at as a board.
warm bodies.
On to Lincoln.
On to Lincoln. So staffing at Lincoln, we're looking at a -6 FTEs for next year. One in physical education, social studies, world language, that's German specific, science and ELA. And then we had overloads of about 1.6, and we're going to try overloads of about 1.6. So that's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's about 8 overloads total. And we're going to reduce those and get away from some of that with the staffing to enrollment. So we're going to get down to 1%, totally 6. Just to give you a little bit better pulse on this situation. The German teacher is retiring. English language arts is Emergus. So where I'm trying to go with this is to show you that, you know, we may not have to lay anybody off, but who knows? Here, I'm going to just talk you through physical education. We think we got an answer for that. Social studies and science, we're waiting on the middle school a little bit more. We sit down and see if anybody can go down there or what's going to happen with that. You know, once again, we don't know what's going to happen as far as resignations. Remember about 3 years ago, it was called the Great Resignation because the whole nation was going through it. I think that's plateauing and I think that's slowing down. So it really will be interesting to see from now until we start school in September, how our resignations fall out. But we could end up with a couple layoffs before that's all said and done. Who knows where that's going to fall? So, any question on high school? Middle school, it's been interesting, at least since I've been here, and this is my 3rd year doing staffing, I think, for this district. The middle schools, the first year I was here, you know, they were changing the schedule to meet the needs of SFA. The second year, so 23, 24, because that schedule was so disappointing to the staff and administration, they created another schedule, so to speak, all right? And right now, they're tweaking that schedule again. And Lee and I met with them just recently, and I'm meeting with the 2 principals and the high school administrator on Thursday to kind of look at what does the middle school look like as far as any reductions there, and what would that look like with the high school, you know, stuff like that. So, and with any retirements or resignations and stuff like that. So the middle school is a little bit it's still a little bit more or less up in the air. We just haven't gotten there quite yet. We will be there in a couple of weeks though, where we're much more specific on, okay, where are we at relative to staffing to enrollment? Are we going to be down? Are we going to be neutral? Where are we going to be at?
You met on March 3rd with
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
The problem well, from what I understood, The problem with the schedule is that it cut out a lot of electives, the opportunity to do electives or do, to take a second year of Spanish or something like that. Is that all being rearranged now?
It's interesting that, I don't think the world language is an issue relative to year 1, 2, or 3 or something like that.
Okay.
What's getting really difficult with the world languages is when you get up to 4 and 5, I think it was year 5 in Manitowoc, which is
Yeah, sure.
good, but yet when you get there sometimes, you have a handful of students only.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So you gotta combine stuff like that, so. But I don't, we have a couple of French teachers traveling to the high school this year. It looks like we might have a Spanish situation next year with the high school and the middle school. So we're working on some of those types of things. Sorry, Gary, I'm circling back to your first point, which was.
Electives at middle school
Elective.
and with the new schedule.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of discussion about that, and it looks like we're going to be staying with 2 electives. And the reason for that is that if we go to 3 electives, we're going to have classes of about 40 minutes, 42, 43 minutes. But if we stay with the 2 electives, we're going to have classes more like 50, 55 minutes. So that's one thing.
So the 2 electives are what? Art and music?
It's what the kids choose.
Oh, it's what the kids
So,
choose.
And just so you all are all aware, the 2 buildings met together
Okay.
with their staff last week and had presentations of a couple of different schedule options where they gave their feedback. And then essentially came up with some consensus on how to move forward. That's
So
just.
they're okay.
Well, yeah, I
You feel okay about
mean, you know as well as I do, Schedule A and Schedule B will all have fans. And
Yeah,
not
yeah,
fans,
sure,
right? So,
yeah.
I mean, but the point is that they really talk through the components and the positive of doing this and the negative potentially of doing this, and then had conversations about it, got the feedback and made the decision. So it was much more collaborative than the last schedule change that occurred at that level.
I'm a pretty strong pro electives guy. I mean, I think, we pound on the fundamentals, but
One of the issues
to
we
get
had.
a real good education.
One of the issues we had with our electives, though, was because of the way they were forcing kids into things, some kids ended up having to take things they didn't want.
Oh, right.
And that's why you were hearing
Right.
about some of the electives.
Yeah.
For example, a kid ends up in choir, hasn't sang a lick and doesn't want to.
Yeah,
They could present, especially a middle school kid. I might have misbehaved a little bit too. I don't think anybody
Yeah.
wants to hear me sing, but so those are factors at play too, where it'll be more choice driven.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a middle school student schedule looks like they'll have the 4 cores, the math, ELA, social science, 2 electives, could be tech ed, art, music.
Yeah, and remember with that too, those change by quarter or semester. So the 2 really becomes 4 choices of.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they have an intervention period, and they have an advisor-advisee period. So that's kind of the middle school. And the lunchtime, of course, schedule.
Yeah, that's good, okay.
So again, we don't know yet about the middle school. However, by looking at your numbers, it would appear that we could almost save $2 million in teacher staffing, which would be nice to let the public know with the referendum coming up that there is that out there that we've said, hey, it's not going to cost you anything, and we're saving $2 million just doing that. My assumption is that we will continue looking through the district for other possibilities to save besides just our teaching staff.
And speaking a little bit of that, and I've been meeting with the staff and I've been telling them that, don't worry. I mean, these realignments aren't happening just on the back of professional staff. However, timing wise, for many reasons, statutorily, we're looking at the professional staff because May 15th is contract day.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and you have to meet certain deadlines and have your ducks in a row on some of that. We have some time with the other stuff, but we're looking at all the sectors and running the numbers, how we're comparing to other districts in the state, making sure that, you know, we're asking ourselves, how can we be more efficient in different areas? And there'll be more to add to this. It's just right now, this is what it is. You know, just as an example, it would not be appropriate for me as the interim superintendent to be telling you I want to restructure the administrative team right now, right? So, just as an example. But those things can be addressed, you know, post the process of all of that too. But we are looking at all of it right now. And we have some ideas and some recommendations, but they're on hold.
Yeah, and I would add to that, we're consumed right now, and I mean consumed right now with all of this stuff. I mean,
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. you are.
because everything here is communication. We're dealing with people here. So we're consumed with this. Relative to support staff, I look at it like this. Once we have this pretty well under wraps, then we can start to look at those types of positions and go from there. Even if we're looking at them in September, October, November, you know, we have to analyze them, but we just can't do it right now. This is all teacher stuff, and this is consuming me, my department, I gotta tell you, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Michael on?
Let me just, one more thing.
One more thing.
Elementary SFA facilitator positions. Remember, we had 8.5 FTEs in SFA facilitator positions. Of course, with SFA not going to be with us next year, those people all became displaced. Some of them have gone into a reading teaching position, some have gone into a back to a classroom position. Some have volunteered to be an instructional support teacher, just so you know that there's been.
It's an instructional support teacher.
What is an instructional support teacher? Those are teachers that build capacity with best practice in our teaching staff.
Oh, okay.
And remember, I pointed this out here too, is that, and I just gotta point this out because 27% of our teachers have less than 5 years' experience.
Oh, yeah, I
Remember
noticed.
that stuff? 23, 24, we had 26 first-year teachers. This year, we had 29. So it's imperative that we have these instructional support teachers that build capacity in these young educators.
Yeah.
Because that's the time you do it, in the first 5 or 6 or 7 years. So anyway, some of them go into the ISD positions. So my point really being is that relative to elementary, we've been very fortunate. And it looks like we're gonna be so fortunate, everybody's gonna have a position. You know, I don't envision any layoffs at the elementary, so.
So you, all the people that were brought on for Success for All, you thought were worth keeping on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because when you change a program like that, it's a good opportunity to get rid of people that you don't have confidence.
Remember, for the SFA facilitators, those were our current staff members that moved into those positions. I don't think we had a hire outside of the district for any of those positions. I don't think.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, okay.
They were
You're
all-
thinking of the SFA teacher interventional.
Yeah, right, yeah. What about?
And most of those were internal as well.
Yeah, we had a mix
Yeah.
there, but I think it's fair to say 2/3 are probably internal too. You know, they're people that are looking for growth in their career. They're looking for maybe to get some experience to say, do I want to take the leap to be a school administrator someday? You know, different stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it looks like, you know, we're gonna be very fortunate and these people are all gonna be in a position they want to be in for the most part. I mean, 99% of them are gonna be in a position they want to be in.
If I could, I want to thank Mike and his team and Katie and Heidi and the whole crew, and Ken for really working together on this because it's a lot to
Yeah,
look
no
through
shit.
and crunch and and everybody just lent a hand and, when they say more hands is a lighter load, it was true to form in this particular process. So thanks, Mike, and your leadership on this. And again, it's the human and human resources. That guy's about as good as it gets. So, communication was all done the right way. So just really pleased.
Mike, I want to thank you as well too. You got a lot of good honorable mentions in the comments and stuff from our staff surveys stating that, you know, it's nice to deal with the HR, Mike Nault specifically. He cares and he listens. So that's important. And I do appreciate that. I also wanted to mention, and it has nothing to do with it because we've already voted, so it really doesn't matter, but I see one of the bigger complaints was the cost of staffing for SFA, and that we hired all these teachers for that, but we actually didn't. And then now we're gonna absorb everybody. We're not gonna be laying anybody off yet. We're saving millions. Government is so funny. That's all I got to say. I don't need a comment on it, Lee.
Well, it's not, we are reducing.
I'm literally just making a statement as to how stupid it is, but I agree. Let's move on.
Anything else? Yes.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say I'm very grateful for the teacher-to-student ratios in elementary. I would like to see similar information for the junior highs and high schools to have a clearer picture of what we're talking about, teacher-to-student ratio. I would appreciate that. I would also like to say, first of all, something that will shock nobody, and that is the SFA teacher interventionalists. I thought were boondoggle then. I think they're boondoggle now. I would just eliminate those positions. I would also say, on the SFA facilitator positions, I do not have a strong enough knowledge of how they work at the junior highs. I do have strong knowledge from several schools about how they work at the elementary schools. And the SFA facilitators are the people who know our readers best across the district or across the building. They know the readers in all the grades. They know the struggling kids. They know the right in the sweet spot kids. They know the, forging ahead kids. They know them. So when I see our explanation that we're going to turn them from SFA facilitators to, what are we calling them? Instructional support teachers. And the focus there is on the other teachers rather than the students. That worries me. That full-time support for the teachers with people who share the knowledge with the kids is fundamental to problem solving for kids' reading problems. In fact, if you look back at RTI, response to intervention, the whole point is to have experts with different ideas for what could be done. The other thing that confuses me here is I know Madison didn't have a half SFA facilitator. I don't know where the half SFA facilitator, that's the one that's tough to say. I don't know where that person was. So I don't understand why Madison that had a full-time one now is only going to have a half-time IST.
The 0.5 SFA is the early learning SFA facilitator for Riverview. That's where because the early learning has, I don't know, whatever, how many kids they have, but that's where that position is,
Okay.
all right? The rationale for going to a 0.5 IST and a 0.5 student support teacher at Monroe is they're down to 9 sections next year. So it's really a numbers thing, relative to the different buildings. I mean,
Yeah, again, student support teachers, another name for the SFA teacher interventionist, which position I didn't and still don't support. Just saying my position. That's all.
And not being a regular elementary teacher, my guess would be reading was probably one of the more important things to teach.
Oh, it's incredibly important. And if you look at what we're looking at for having individual reading plans for next year,
Oh,
we're
yeah, we got.
going to have a ton.
Is
We got a
that
ton
what,
of those.
is that what that,
so here's what you need to know. We have X amount of reading FTEs at every elementary building, in addition to these other positions, specifically for reading intervention and that sort of thing. right?
Are you talking title reading?
Some.
Some is, some isn't, because title, you can't just
Yeah,
call
I know,
reading
I know.
teacher's
the
title,
difference.
it has to be, there's a baseline. Title teachers can only be paid if they're above the baseline. So let's say, for example, we have one reading teacher at both middle schools. But let's say Washington hires an additional reading teacher, because you can't supplant in title. So you have to, the district pays for the baseline, which is one reading teacher. The second reading teacher is paid for by title, or the third reading teacher is paid for by title, and that's how we determine which positions we're able to take out of title.
So what I could do for you, we get the reading 6 FTEs all sorted out. We could report back to you, just so you know what it looks like in every building. Like we said, we've got a 1.0 baseline. And then from there, just depending on the title needs and title qualifications, they get more. But we can report back to you. We just don't. You'd have to give us just a couple weeks. We'd be able to get that.
No, I'm not
But
freaking out, I'm just
I just
giving.
wanted you to know that they're out there, the reading teachers are out there for every elementary building and the middle school. Matter of fact, I know the middle school, Wilson has one reading teacher projected for next year, Washington has 3. 2 are title, So I just can't bring up the elementary and.
Yeah, because Wilson did pretty well on the scores, yeah. Washington did, but.
So my question was that using those coaches to help young teachers improve their reading program for kids. And I mean, you come out of college and you do your best your first couple of years, and it takes you a while to become good.
Yeah.
And those people that were in those positions will have some of that knowledge to be able to go in and say, hey, Mr. Jones, this and this and this is what you're doing is great. Maybe you could step up on this kind of stuff. And so I see a benefit to doing that. I'm just hoping, that is part of that understanding of what they're going to do for those young teachers.
Yeah, when I looked at it, I thought, oh, we gotta retain teachers. I mean, if we can. And so many of them drop out of the whole profession
Right.
fairly early on. And they're fairly early on. I mean, those of us who've done it is the hardest work time ever. And to have that kind of support and to have, master teachers say, look, don't sweat that stuff, do this. Is pretty wise, I think. But I thought that Chris made a pretty good insight into the, some of the reading teachers knowing all the kids, basically. Yeah.
And I would just say, with all due respect to everyone, it's our job to put together a staffing plan for the district that makes the most sense, that can maximize student achievement and get the greatest quality of investment. I want you to know that we don't take any of those decisions lightly. We have a lot of collaborative conversations with our C&I people, our student services people, to make sure, because again, our goal is to improve student learning. And so you have to understand that when we're sending this to you, this is our expert advice on how we organize that. And I know there are differing opinions sometimes about positions and where they should go or what they should be. But the bottom line is, I'm the one you have to hold accountable whether it works or not. Because some of these things are just things that, through experience or through research, we're constantly looking into what other districts are doing, how they're organizing that are having success, like you've brought up before, Mr. Hanson. So, I just have to point that out too, because, there's a lot of vetting. It's not just about numbers here. This is about how we're impacting kids in their learning.
Exactly.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
Anything else?
That's it for now.
I thought we did
Thank you.
guns and,
We have the policy still on the agenda though, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we got to finish those up before your meeting.
oh, yeah, well,
Okay,
all right, the policies.
so we have policies for introduction.
Yeah.
Can I talk?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted, the main one I want to just spend a couple minutes on is You'll notice that, you know, towards the bottom here, we've got our 2266 being revised. So I want to just take a step back and remind everybody what we did with Title IX. Our Title IX policy, if you remember, we left the old one on the books and we put the new one on the books, okay? With the new changes at the federal level, we now are at a point where, you know, what we did in hindsight looks pretty good because now we go, okay, we have been told we're using 2020 regulations, okay? So all we're doing with this is essentially we're gonna rescind the 2024 ones that we passed earlier because those are no longer valid. And we are amending 2266 because one of the things that they put in here was a sunset clause. And then it also, the other change is making Mike one of the Title IX people, because I think I was listed.
What is the sunset clause for?
There's a sunset provision to the 2024 regulations, which basically means that they're putting those to bed. The 2024 regulation.
Is it immediate or doesn't it go till July or
Yeah, it
something?
goes till, yeah, they had to give people time
Yeah.
to change their policies. So
That's what I thought.
I just wanted to make sure I gave you context on that because you're probably thinking, didn't we just do something with this? And the answer is yes, but we are now doing something again with it.
These are the most hard things to read sometimes.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sometimes.
I'm so glad I'm
On-
not, I'm glad I'm not an attorney.
2000 program templates dealing with students as trainees. I mean, honestly, I couldn't figure, it says particular attention should be paid to community-based programs for students with disabilities and a vocational education program in which students are producing goods or services for sale. And the district is the recipient of the income therefrom. Explain that to me. What does that mean?
So what that basically means is sometimes some of our special programs in the district, for example, may do some vocational work. So let me give you an example with some of our kids at Lincoln would grow some plants to sell in the spring. Basically what this is doing is basically saying legally we can do those sorts of things to keep the money.
Okay. All right, I get it. And then in 3,000 professional staff
Making fireworks.
templates, it says the district
Well,
administrator
we didn't go
shall
on to the
establish.
next one yet.
Huh?
We're still on this policy. Did we move to a different policy already?
Well, he was just asking about
I'm
it.
just
Oh,
asking.
okay, go ahead, yeah.
We
You
didn't
know,
make any
establish
motions. or anything.
procedures to facilitate the identification and evaluation of candidates for administrative, supervisory, and other leadership positions. Do we have those? Do we have
Can you tell me
established
which policy
procedures?
you're-
Which one are you reading?
Yeah, what one are you referencing?
3,000 professional staff templates. Title vacancies.
I'm seeing 3,000 on here. Title vacancies, what?
Oh, code, maybe it's
Yeah.
this one here, this one.
3132.
Okay,
Okay, 3130. That's,
okay, I'll just go there. And what was your question, Carrie?
do we have established procedures to facilitate
Yes.
the identification and evaluation of candidates? Do we have those?
Yep.
And are they in the bylaws?
No, those are administrative things. So
Okay.
through Mike's office is where we run the process for how we handle vacancies.
Okay.
Yep. It's basically just saying that this policy basically just clarifies that it's the district administrator's responsibility to make sure those are in place.
Yeah, okay. That's where the authority comes from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I didn't have anything else. Yeah, they are hard to read though.
Any other thoughts on any of the policies?
It's back on the 2266. I know I'm gonna comment on this. I don't necessarily have too much of a problem with it, but I do want to bring to mention in the beginning where it says the board does not discriminate on the basis of sex,
Oh,
which
which one?
includes,
Oh, yeah, okay.
including sexual orientation and gender identity. Would you agree that sexual orientation and gender identity is
Same
on the
thing.
basis of sex? I'm asking. I would include that. Would you
Say
include
that
that?
again.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
My question is, because it says the board does not discriminate on the basis of sex. And in parentheses, it says including sexual orientation or gender identity. I would think on the basis of sex, that would include sexual orientation and gender identity, yes?
It incorporates that.
It incorporates that.
I would
Why do we have that in there? Why do we have to add that in there?
We didn't add that in there. This is.
I just want to know why, because in my opinion, sex includes gender identity. It includes sexual orientation.
That's true, yeah.
All of those things.
I don't
One
disagree.
of the things that we made changes to in our other policies was to make things general, because that way it included everything that was legal. But now we're throwing words in there again that I just don't see the purpose
I
of
need to
it.
clarify though, we, as in this district, is not throwing any
No,
words.
no,
in
I
there.
understand that. No, it's Wisconsin as a state.
Okay,
Yeah.
And I say Wisconsin, I'm talking about Wisconsin.
okay.
Why do we have to have that in there?
I don't know, some lawyer would.
I
would
move
be
that we,
saying,
I move that we eliminate it, but
Wanna go
other than
to
that,
this?
if you guys are okay with it, then we pass it to the board, I'm okay.
I'll
But I'm
second,
sure we'll be,
Huh?
huh?
I'll second that.
I just,
I was striking it.
I move that we just leave it and discriminate on the basis of sex.
Okay.
We've been told by our council that that is not necessary to have in. So,
Parenthetical, well,
right.
that's the whole essence of parenthetical.
All you're gonna do is aggravate 50% of the people. When it really includes it anyway. That's just my own opinion.
Okay. Thanks for that.
So motion in a second.
For discussion.
I don't know.
You know, I just don't know if we're ever gonna solve any of this.
That's for now.
You what?
Because today the Senate voted the US Senate voted to not do something they were asked to do they voted not to do the trans students competing in athletics. And they voted that down, which kind of surprised me that they would do that.
Yeah.
But, so it's, my thought is, it's just all like, why are we doing
This
this?
is so, it's gotten so
You
complicated.
know what I mean?
I try, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to keep it general, is because this is gonna go back and forth forever.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's when you say on the basis of sex, there is an actual wordage that changes literally monthly in our Wisconsin statute on what sex is. Tomorrow, it may include butterflies. I don't know. But the point is, putting extra words in there only makes us have to come back to these policies.
Let me
change.
Let me
And
ask you
changes
this.
later.
Let me ask you
I
this.
completely understand.
Is sex biological and sexual orientation is a variation on that? I mean, you can only get passports that says you're male or female. You can't get one that says you're. But,
That's,
so I
yeah,
don't know. I
policy.
mean, I don't know, but if the lawyers say we don't need it, I'd just be for fewer words rather than
Leaves us
like having people scratch their head
covered.
and
That's
say,
just my
well,
own
what does this
opinion.
mean? I mean, these things are hard enough to
And in no manner.
make clear.
We all know, and especially this community and our administrators, everybody, there's no way we would tolerate any type of discrimination. Be it whether they were gay, straight, transgender, black, white, Asian, whatever it may be, discrimination will not be tolerated in this district, period. And I think we've all made that clear.
Yeah.
We're gonna end up going back and revisiting this policy again because of different wording and changes. It's in there. Why put that parentheses in there? I just think we should just get rid of it and leave it at that because it covers everything anyway.
Can you think of any problem?
No, we've been told, if you remember back to the last time this came up, the attorneys were pretty clear that you can probably do whatever you want to this policy, but it doesn't change the law. And ultimately,
sure.
we're
Yeah, yeah,
responsible for upholding that. And that will mean all of the definitions that come with whatever at that time is defined as sex.
Yeah.
So it is not a big deal to take those out. You know, in terms of what this policy means for our district and how it's implemented.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just think 50% of the people are gonna be pissed off, and then the other way, 100% people are gonna be covered.
It's a 50/50.
As long as every child is equal. I'm okay.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
only thing.
Okay, and I would respectfully disagree with, we've always done that, but as long as we're there, I'm okay.
Well, you've been
Because
around a
every
long time.
child has value and we just have to remember that every day that we do this job.
Okay, so we can take a vote, I guess, Cal.
Yeah.
You get to run the next meeting.
Oh,
Just calm down.
okay.
Anything else on
That's
this?
okay.
All those in favor of, was there a motion to change that? or
Yeah,
take
just
it out?
strike the
To
parenthetical.
strike that. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed say nay. And it passes. Anything else on the policies?
Move it to the board.
Move to adjourn, I'm looking for.
We need to
Wait.
pass the slate.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
we need
right,
to-
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
we
So I
need
need a
amended
motion
one.
to pass.
motion to forward them as amended?
And do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And that passes.
Motion to
Motion
adjourn?
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I got a second and a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye, maybe.
And it's all yours, Kerry.
Oh, yeah, I don't